Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
We are continuing our series with Living Originally, and as much as I'd love to take credit for this title, it isn't mine. It is the name of the chapter, Dancing with Chaos. Robert Brummett called it, and it is an opportunity for us to embrace in times of challenge, difficulty, upset, how it is that we will, how then shall we live? How shall we go through something? How shall we find our resilience? How shall we navigate? When I told my husband that I was going to be speaking about this, and I told him that people had come up to me on Sunday because we advertised it on Sunday, that people were excited about the topic, and because he knew me as being the polar opposite of someone who dances with chaos, he laughed, and I was just very, of course, upset. And I said, but why? I mean, I think of myself as really being, capable. He knows me as someone who likes to make plans. I like to have things on the calendar. I like to know what we're doing. I like to know what's next. I like to have the overview. I like to have the context of whatever's happening. Yeah, I have all of those needs. Those are the things I need. He, on the other hand, doesn't want to make plans. He wants to, keep his options open and wait till the last possible minute and all that. So you can see the yin-yang, the push-me, pull-you in our relationship. And it really works great because I've come to understand that he isn't really opposed to having a calendared event, but he does feel hemmed in. And just because he goes shopping for, something that he's already named off, he knows exactly what he wants, he knows what the size is, he knows what color he's looking for, he knows how much he wants to pay, and he finds it in the very first store he goes into, but will he buy it there? No. Right? He will not. It drives me crazy. I'm like, but check. What's the problem? I just might find something better someplace else. He may come back around. He may buy it. He may not. He'll think about it some more. It's like everybody's got their process. What we're talking about is not personality differences. What we're really talking about is a deep ability to practice letting go and surrendering and truly taking control and letting control go. It really is something that goes back and forth. Because when my husband and I continued our little conversation, the more we talked, we both agreed that we both have been dance partners of utter chaos in our lives, even our life together. And more about that later. I'll tell you something about that. The definition of chaos, though, is from the Greek. It's formless, primordial space. Sound familiar? It might, if you've ever opened Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and there was utter chaos, there was chaos before the formless and void, before anything was formed, before there was form, there was void and space and chaos. And the creation myths all speak of this void, this space. In the Greek mythology, actually chaos is a being, as you know, and Gaia is a goddess of the earth, and she comes into form and brings form into the void. And so this is how the creation and the creativity begins to appear. But at some point, there's also a decline and a breaking apart and return back to the void, a return back to chaos and to dissembling. And this is a natural process, and that's what gets mentioned in our creation theologies, our creation mythologies, in our creation understanding, and frankly in our lives, in our world. We can point to this cycle, right, of starting with great uncertainty and not knowing anything, and then slowly form appears, and we take a step, and we take a movement, and we move into something new, and we create something new. But after a time, everything sort of has its decline, and it starts to break apart, and we know it's time to leave, or time to go on to something else, or to go on to the next thing. And so there is this ebb and flow that we see in our lives. Isn't it comforting to know that chaos is a natural thing? It's a natural part of our lives. It isn't wrong. It isn't destructive. It isn't here to mess up your world. It's here to bring you the next new thing. But first, you have to let go of the old thing to be able to grasp the new one. And that means many possibilities and infinite choices arise before you. Robert Brummett says, by consciously entering the realm of chaos, you enter into the dance of creation, and a star is born, he says. He says, beneath all chaos is an underlying pattern of emergence. Recognize and resonate with that pattern. In other words, even before you can really see it or name it, you can have a sense of it. You can perceive. You can start to see something is coming up, something is wanting to be revealed, something is changing here in a space. If you can kind of do a survey of things and just really kind of get a sense of what's happening, on the horizon, you can begin to notice that there's something that wants to be born. And if you, instead of resist it or run away from it, or try to roll it into something that you recognize or something that you already know, instead be with it and allow it to reveal itself to you so that you can cooperate with it. That's what he means, recognize and resonate with it so that you can dance with it, this new thing, whatever it is. He also says that in chaos theory, a mathematical process, that attractors are recognized in that theory, and that attractor for us, using it in our life, is really the application of our intention. When we intend something, when we have an intention to serve, or an intention to be kind, or to be healed, or to promote healing, or to teach, or to be something, to create something. When we have intention and we set it forth, then everything that is needed for that to come into being will begin to be attracted and begin to become visible and begin to show up in our lives and begin to offer us opportunities, whether we think we're ready for them or not. This is a way in which we can, that chaos looks crazy and all messed up, but in fact, there is order to it, and there is a pattern that's underlying it, and it becomes revealed as we stay still and conscious. Drawing whatever is needed to assemble the new thing and the new view becomes holding this intention for what it is we wish to create. And it requires consciously surrendering to the process. Feel your feelings, whatever they are, however it comes. Feel your feelings, let them go, let them pass through you, return to peace, breathe, repeat, right? Feel your feelings, express them, let them go, return to peace, breathe. The best advice I could give you is that. That's the recipe to handle anything that comes into your life. Feel your feelings, express them, let them go, return to peace, breathe. And you are equipped to do that. This is natural. This isn't some crazy recipe or something, some woo-woo thing. This is actually what really is our human ability to just relax and to become present, become centered, to let go of all the fear thoughts and all the things that happen, and to really become centered. Become curious and aware, Robert Brummett says, watching for the elements that arise or make room for the next creation drawn by your intention. Become curious and aware. Ask, what is that? Wonder what that's going to be. Instead of assuming that it's going to be negative or bad or scary or mess up the things you have planned, instead, can you just befriend it? I don't know you. I don't know you yet. I don't even know if I like you, but what are you anyway? What is that? The Tao Te Ching says this: the Tao of heaven does not strive, and yet it overcomes. It does not speak, and yet it is answered. It does not ask, yet it is supplied with all it needs. It seems at ease, and yet it follows a plan. This is our own divine nature. This is what at depth we are planted with, is implanted with. That this is part of our being and our natural way of dealing. If we don't let this get in the way, if we don't overthink, if we don't overstress, if we don't over-plan, really. Robert Brummett says, watch for chaos as it arises. Bow to it. Greet it as a new dance partner. Listen to its silent music. Feel its rhythm in your body. Let the intention for transformation be the attractor that shapes your life experiences, and then step onto the dance floor. I mean, really interact. In the meditation that I led you in, I gave you a little taste of a process that you can use. It's a little bit of a gestalt in a way where you let a problem or you let a condition become a personality of some sort. And, you can even dress it, allow it to dress itself, or allow it to show you how it wants to be, and have it sit in a chair opposite you, and have a conversation with it, and ask it anything you want. And listen carefully to how it responds to you. What is it asking of you? And how are you feeling, and how does that coming across? Record it, and do this several different times at different junctures, and see if there's a pattern in some of the dialogues that you have. 10 minutes of your time is probably all it will take. But knowing that you are in a communion with it, you are in a relationship with it, it takes it out of your head, and it presents you with an opportunity to interact in a conscious way, to ask questions and find that there is some deeper wisdom that will tell you the answer to these questions. Robert Brummett says chaos carries the potential for transformation because it challenges our identification with ego. It challenges the ego's very existence. However, that which is real cannot be annihilated. So your ego, you've heard about this, you have to dispel your ego has to be destroyed. No, ego attachment has to be destroyed. What you have to do is stop letting ego be in charge. Ego is a necessary and rightful part of us, but it has to bow to the heart. It has to follow the deeper wisdom that is within you. And then it will help you navigate in the world, just as it's meant to do. He also says your true nature is indestructible. And you don't really need to even lose the ego, he says. You simply lose your identification with it. That's not changing the direction. You don't let it make the decisions. You put it in service to the heart that doesn't know how. It just knows what. Right? It just knows this, not that. It just knows now, not then. The ego becomes more fluid and transparent. It serves as a vehicle for your true nature to express through rather than an obstacle to its expression as it was before. And he says the annihilation of an ego does feel like death, like I don't know what to do if I don't do the things I always do. But it's really not death. It's in fact an awakening to your true life. And therein lies the flexibility and the freedom and the ability to go with the flow, even when you don't know where it's taking you. And therein lies the example I want to bring tonight. For me, the practice I had growing up in an alcoholic home was practicing hypervigilance. So my practice for hypervigilance, I was quite proud of. I felt like I had really refined it, that I was always aware of scoping out the horizon all the way to the right. It's like I imagined seeing all the way to the horizon, and I was just checking out for any bumps in the road or any problems or any things that might be coming up or any trouble or anything, so that I could head it off at the pass, so I could be prepared. I thought the worst thing that could happen to a person was that you weren't prepared, that I was caught off guard. Like somehow that was the worst thing that could happen to me, is that I would be surprised. I still don't like surprises very much. I really don't, but I try to get over that. But even pleasant surprises, I don't really. I don't like to be caught off guard. But the hypervigilance thing changed in me with some transformation, with some therapy, really, and with some understanding of how I could become more at ease right where I am, by being aware that I could turn my pain avoidance, which is all that defensive mechanism really is about, trying to avoid pain, and see it instead as opportunity, that I could continue scanning the horizon for an opportunity, for something to arise, for something good to come, for something waiting to bring me good, not coming to hurt me or to surprise me or to take something from me. So this is a shift in utilizing the same skill set, but using it for a different purpose. And don't mistake the control, this for control of what is coming. In other words, don't, just because you see an opportunity, now you can get on top of it and control it. Rather, stay surrendered to it, curious about it. Invite it in. Do what is called out of you to do, to participate, and then allow it to be whatever it is. Don't try to change it. Try to dance with it. Try to be a partner with it. Invite it in. Kind of does sound like a dance, doesn't it? So Robert Brummett makes suggestions about how you can be in a practice, use some practices, and there's about 6 of them. I just want to kind of share these with you, and you may want to just make note of them a little bit, or just 1 or 2 that you think you might actually do. You don't have to do all of these by any stretch, but just think about ways you could use them. One, he says about sleep. Rather than planning and anticipating what we've got scheduled for tomorrow, instead he suggests entering into a state of openness and curiosity about whatever's troubling us or we're curious about or that we're concerned about. State of openness and curiosity about it as we settle into sleep. And notice how you feel as you fall asleep. Notice for a moment just how your breathing is and how you feel inside and where you feel it as you start to get restful and start to fall into sleep. And then notice when you awaken and when you come back into your body, when you first notice you're even awake. Notice then how you're feeling and see if you can see a change over time, over how you're feeling now. Dreams, they come from the formless primordial space, right? That's that formless primordial space of our subconscious and forms into dreams and dynamics and dream activity. And this is obviously the space, again, of potential creativity. So notice your dreams and how you feel about your dream memories. See them as teachers that come to you, little teachers that come. See them as teachers, even if you don't have a clue what they mean. Write them down and see if there's something, a pattern that starts to arise. This is another way to mine what your subconscious and what your deeper wisdom is trying to tell you. Sometimes what I like to do is look at what I have learned from chaos in my life before, when I have been through chaos, not in it, but in it and survived it. And I came out on the other side. What did I learn? How was it that made it difficult? What was I doing that made it difficult? What was that I end up doing that made it easier? How did I get to the other side? What did I carry away? What's my prize for having been through a transformative experience or a challenge or healing or any kind of upset, any kind of disappointment or loss or challenge of any kind. And filmmaker Greg Colbert says, ever since my house burned down, I see the moon more clearly. Isn't that a beautiful koan? The more you think about that, the more powerful it becomes. It has so many meanings. Robert Brummett says, we can choose to see chaos as the potential for freedom rather than as an unfortunate disaster that I just simply lived through. You don't want to just live through. You don't want to just survive. You want to arrive. You want to bring something out of it with you. You want it to have meaning, to make a difference. That's how you really live your life, consciously and open. When I met my husband in September 1984, within the month of our first date on November 10th, we were engaged and married 6 months later. By November 10th of the next year, in other words, from our first date, a year later, I was married, pregnant, and both of us were in treatment for addiction and for codependency. And I'm just going to tell you, I was walking through that next year, that whole year, like I was sleepwalking, like I was in shock. I was doing everything that was expected of me. I was going about my life. I was working in my responsibilities. I was doing everything, but I did not know what the heck was happening. This was not the life I had planned for myself. This was not who I was. I was the good girl who wanted to get everything right and do it good, and I wanted to get it right, and I wanted to follow the rules. I just needed to know what the rules were so I could follow them. That's all I wanted to do. I wasn't looking for anything more than that, actually. I didn't have any bigger plans for myself than that. And my whole life just got broken open in a crazy way. What happened for my husband and I is that we didn't recover on our own or even just together. We were privileged and blessed to have people in our lives who knew what we didn't know and loved us enough to show us how to live a new life. And thankfully, we both chose to do that. So don't walk alone when everything you thought you know is shattered and laying in shards before you. There are those whose purpose it is to show you another way to live. They will gather around you, and your life will go in an entirely different way than you could have ever dreamed of. Robert Brummett suggests looking at shattered expectations. When shattered expectations happen, feeling your emotions helps to sweep away the shards of the broken dreams or the expectations and clear the way for a new dream or experience to take its place. So when you have those things happen to you, as what happened to me, I really could not make sense of anything on my own, none of it. But it was following what others had done that made all the difference. Robert Brummett says, journal with chaos. Think of it as an entity sitting in a chair. That was the other practice that we did. Why have you come? And asking the questions that you want to do. Keep a journal of that. Meditation, moving into a time of peaceful state and moving into the still point, the still silence, the quiet deep within you. T.S. Eliot talks about the still point. He wrote this: at the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards. At the still point, there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement. Do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered together. Neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. There would be no dance, and there is only the dance. Joseph Campbell was speaking to Bill Moyers, seems like 1,000 years ago when I saw him, and he said, he described this still point, and he used it in the metaphor of understanding it as the axis of the earth turning on its axis. And he said that somewhere as the earth spins around this imaginary point, we don't have an actual axis, but there is an imaginary point one can think of that is still and that doesn't turn at all. But in fact, everything turns around. And it is this point where stillness meets peace. And peace can exist and does every moment, even while the wild world spins madly around it. So it doesn't have to become still and quiet outside of you to find the peace inside of you. That is the thing that you're equipped with. Be willing to be transformed by the unexpected, by the loss, by the disappointment. Because guess what? Your teacher has arrived. God bless you.
I feel like doing something crazy. Mix it up, make it chaotic.
Zorba, be Zorba.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Reverend Karen. Yes, it just, that idea of chaos and how we know in spiritual principle, everything's unfolding in divine order and according to divine law, and yet it's our consciousness really that's interpreting the chaos, that this is not what is supposed to be happening. This is crazy. So I know we're all, like it or not, in this pandemic experience together of global transformation of consciousness. It certainly seems to be that the great teachers are talking about that as well. And I think about how disruptive my life is. I know that it's such a gift that you and William had each other through that experience, and it made me think of one of my experiences of chaos when I was laid off from a job that I had for 5.5 years, and it's like, oh, now what? And it took a period of time, like a fallow time, to let go of that and explore and open and creativity, and I was eventually led to ministry, and that was kind of chaotic just in and of itself. No one in my family had been a minister, so, or any clergy or anything like that. What are you doing? Why would you want to do that? And we're grateful to have a partner who got it. He got it right away. It was like, yeah, that is, I can see that and hold that with you. So seeing that in hindsight, that what seems so open and formless, and that was just the old form breaking down and the new form coming into being, and that unknown space there.
Oh, exactly. That's a great example of having a calling and being pulled to something entirely different and unexpected. And then you have to break the news to everybody else around you, right? It's, I think the same thing happens when things break down and chaos happens, and it's not supposed to happen. And so I don't know about you, but I felt ashamed, I felt like, this isn't what I was supposed to be about. This isn't it. And, just needing to, try not to just put it behind me and keep the veneer going. I did do that, and I did try to do that, and I had to for a bit. But only with time was I able to just let it all happen and just tell my truth and share that, hey, everything broke down, everything changed, and it's starting to look better. like a place I never would have gone by myself. I would never have known to go except that. So what I want to say is that when things break apart, sometimes we feel ashamed about it, and it's hard to ask for help because we think somehow we deserve it, or we were punished, or we did it wrong, or old tapes playing. But in fact, it is natural. And when things break down, it's really an entree for something amazing to happen. Mm-hmm.
Listening to your talk, I realized that I haven't thought a lot about chaos. I'm sure that someone with your distinctions could assess my life and say, "Oh, well, look at that." That you have some clarity
we'd
about.
love to, David.
But I would need to think about it a good while longer to really frame it in the way that you have articulated it tonight. So I'm curious about that, because I think that chaos is relative. In a way, I'm thinking about one of the most chaotic periods of my life when I was actually in a house that was affected by a landslide. There was another house that landed in our house. And my son was 2 at the time, and my partner got us out of the house, and we were standing on the sidewalk at 5 in the morning whenever this thing happened. And that was a bona fide chaotic situation, but relative to, I got my son into daycare 2 hours later. I was, a year later, we were in a different house. It's like, it seems like hyperbole to call, it seems like an exaggeration to characterize that as chaos, compared to what it could have been. And anyway, I don't know what that's worth, but I do have a very specific question that I want to ask you. Based on your reading and also your intuitive sense, do you think the natural drift of life is toward chaos or toward order?
Well, I don't actually see them as really different. I really do see that order is just another form of chaos, and chaos is another form of order. It's all about change. Nothing stays the same.
Like the yin-yang.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, the seed of the next thing is coming into visibility, is being planted in the old thing, and
that may explain a little why I'm challenged to fixate, to contextualize chaos, is because it's an inherently fluid state. It's the attachment to it being in order that would cause chaos to be disruptive, and just as if you would attach to chaos as if, isn't this a disaster, when it's not. It's just part of going with the flow.
Right, exactly. And it is our attachment, like, T.S. Eliot says, no fixity. Don't affix, don't hold on. Robert Brummett says the same thing. It's when the ego wants to get attached and cling to and not allow something to change and hold everything as is because this is good, and then anything that changes it is bad. And so we're in this war. Well, that's where our struggle is, that's where our suffering is, that's where our pain is. And so when we learn the dance is surrender and then a little control, and then surrender and then control. And then it's not to just surrender and be carried away. It is surrender and do what is mine to do, and then surrender some more, and then what is mine to do, and then surrender some more. And now it is a dance, right?
It's like the metaphor of balance. All balance is managing imbalance. Mm-hmm. Because if you're like, oh, I got it, that's the beginning and the end. Balance is managing imbalance.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had losses and other changes in your life that came against your will, and those are times when the expectations get dashed on the floor.
Yeah,
right?
When you said feel your feelings, express them, come to peace, and repeat. Is that what you said?
And breathe.
And breathe. Oh, okay.
And repeat, yes.
So say it again. Yeah.
So it is. Express your feeling, feel your feelings, express them, let them go, return to peace.
Yeah.
Breathe, just be there.
Right.
And await and assess, what's the next thing? Feel the feelings. How am I feeling now? And just try to be as conscious as we can. And every time we wake up, every time we remember to feel our feelings or to experience them or to wake up, we come back around again. We now have perspective. We now have control again. We have power. And we also find that we have peace here too. Peace is always right where we are, not conditional. That's the good news. It's not conditional. And don't wait for it to appear around you. Just find it in yourself.
The body has a great feedback mechanism for that. If you're not feeling your feelings, chaos starts showing up in the body. Yep. You've been pushing that one down a long time.
Well, I do know that certainly there have been periods in my life where I've felt overwhelmed and then almost immobilized by, I guess, we'll use the word chaos, since that seems to be the topic tonight. And in those moments, if I try to extrapolate too far, it just contributes to my overwhelm. And so I've learned just do the next right thing. The next right thing, without any regard for what comes after that. This isn't the first time I've said that, but it's like, you talk about koans, man, this is the one that is perhaps the most powerful to me on an immediate basis. Do the next right thing and only the next right thing. Sometimes it's literally taking a breath, and then the next right thing, and then the next right thing. And if I can kind of keep my blinders on and not get too hung up about the consequences of whatever any of these next right things is going to be, then I do come to peace. I get a toehold eventually, and then I can get my stride back. Oh, yes.
Right, exactly.
That koan that you shared reminded me of a teaching I'd heard a long time ago that I really liked from Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. It said, if your house burns down, that may be the best thing to happen to you, because then you get to create whatever you want.
Yeah, amazing. Wow.
And you'll see the moon more clearly.
That is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. That's really it. And we are inherently equipped to handle whatever comes our way. We really are. And our past should prove it to us.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.